Erikson's 8-stage theory of psychosocial development. A brief biography of Erikson. Erikson's mother was of Jewish descent, and at the time of his conception was living in Copenhagen. Little is known about his biological father, only that he was not Jewish. Erikson's mother moved to Germany and gave birth to Erikson. Later his mother would marry his pediatrician, who Erikson would grow up to believe was his biological father. Erikson's stepfather adopted him shortly after marrying his mother. Erikson was raised in a temple school where he was teased for being tall and having blonde hair with blue eyes, while at grammar school he was made fun of for being Jewish. After his schooling was complete, he traveled around Germany and Italy with his friends as a roaming artist. He found his way to Vienna, where he met Anna Freud, Sigmund Freud's daughter. Erikson later became a student of Freud, but differed in their theories. While the rise of Hitler's Germany, Erikson tried fleeing to Copenhagen, but could not receive citizenship. So instead he fled to the United States, where he later taught at both Yale and Harvard. Erikson also held positions at Massachusetts General Hospital as a psychoanalytic for children.
Erikson's theory of development, each human goes through 8 different stages. The first stage of human development is infancy. Erikson believed that throughout infancy, babies are introduced to a conflict of basic trust versus mistrust. To resolve this conflict, a baby not only has to have their needs met, but also their mother's needs as well. The baby needs to learn to trust a mother and father and be able to rely on both of them. For example, each child relies on constant contact with their caregivers. Skin-to-skin contact is a good example of this need. Kangaroo care is when the mother or father hold the baby against their bare chest for a period of time. This creates an environment where the baby can learn to trust their caregivers. If the parents or caregivers neglect the child, the baby will remain the same stage of development. To move on to the next stage of development, the infant has to overcome this conflict.
Development is the toddler early childhood years. This is between 18 months and 3 years. During this stage, the child can build self-esteem and autonomy, which is independence, and know right from wrong. In this stage, they also become more independent, walking away from their mother and doing things on their own. The child is discovering that they have many skills and abilities. For example, putting on clothes, shoes, and playing with toys. During this time, children can go through terrible twos, meaning they can have a bad temper and be defiant. Some children can experience low self-esteem and feelings of shame during this stage. The conflict of this stage is autonomy versus shame, so becoming independent and feeling shame for things that they do wrong. When children in this stage are encouraged in their independent behavior, they become more confident and secure. When they are criticized or overly controlled, they may become too dependent on others, lacking independence, and feel doubt in their own abilities.
The third stage of Erikson's theory is initiative versus guilt. This occurs around the ages of 3 to 5. During this stage, the most important relationship is one's family. Children are starting to imitate the adult figures around them, so it is important for caregivers to exemplify good behaviors. Children are also creating real-life situations while they play. For example, a child might play with her Barbie or Ken doll, and she will create a happy life and family for her characters, especially if that's what he or she has been exposed to. Children are also trying to take control over situations in their lives and make good choices. If a child can lead a group in an activity, they will develop a strong sense of initiative. If the caregivers of a child are discouraging, the child may experience guilt. If they provide positive reinforcement, the child will feel a sense of purpose or self-identification, which is initiative. If the child feels as though they have no control over the situation, they will experience guilt, meaning the child will not develop a sense of independence or purpose.
Ages 5 to 12 is the fourth stage of Erikson's model and is where children begin to learn to read and write, do sums, and to make things on their own. Teachers start to become an important role in their lives as they teach certain skills to certain ages. Not only are teachers important, but so are the child's peers and parents. Erikson said that the child's peers and parents during this stage are an important source of the child's self-esteem. This is where the child will feel the need to win approval by doing things that are valued by society. Winning approval will develop a sense of pride within the child. Erikson believed that if children are encouraged and reinforced for completing their initiative, that they would feel confident in their ability to reach their goals. He believed that if parents or teachers do not encourage or they restrict the child, that the child begins to feel inferior and will doubt his or her abilities, which will make it hard for him or her to reach their full potential and could hurt them later in their life as well. For example, if a child is being pushed to be athletic and does not develop the skill level that is wanted, they will have a sense of inferiority, and later in life might doubt their abilities to play sports in high school. Although failure is a good thing during this stage, encouragement after failure is also needed for the child to develop modesty as well as accomplishment. The biggest part of this stage is for the kid to develop a balance between modesty and competence, and this success will lead to the virtue of competence.
In the fifth stage of Erikson's theory of development, the role of the adolescent has changed from being dependent to partially independent. This stage is known for adolescents aging from 13 to 19 years old and is called fidelity. This often relates to identity versus role confusion. During this stage of life, Erikson believed that the adolescent is searching to find their own identity. This could happen when a person is trying to fit in with the social norms of everyday life. Whether it be deciding what shoes to wear or sitting at a certain lunch table, each teen is faced with an obstacle they must overcome. The development process is dependent on what moral or unmoral decisions the person is choosing to make. This stage of development typically brings up different questions that the adolescent has to ask themselves. Who am I? What do I have to offer this world? What am I supposed to do? Each of these questions concerns the person's idea of their own identity. To move on to the next stage of Erikson's theory of development, the adolescent will have to face the questions head-on.
Stage 6 in Erikson's stages of development is young adult, so age 18 to 35. The conflict in the stage is intimacy versus isolation. This is a stage where we share ourselves more intimately with others. We're exploring relationships that could lead to long-term commitments with someone other than a family member. Erikson also has a list of criteria for what he calls a genital utopia. The criteria starts with the mutuality of an orgasm with a love partner of the opposite sex, with someone you are willing to trust, with someone who can regulate the cycles of work, procreation, and recreation, and to secure to the offspring of all the stages of satisfactory development. Being successful in this stage can lead to comfortable relationships, a sense of commitment, safety, and care within your relationship. Avoiding relationships in intimacy and having fear of commitment can lead to loneliness, isolation, and can sometimes cause depression. When one is successful in the stage, it leads to a life and virtue of love. When one is not successful in the stage, it can lead to depression and a very unhappy life.
The seventh stage of Erikson's theory is generativity versus stagnation. This stage typically occurs between the ages of 40 and 65, also known as middle adulthood. During this stage, a person begins to settle down in their life and develops a view of the bigger picture. The main goal of this stage is to figure out how to give back or contribute to the world, or to leave a mark. At this stage, a person begins to spend a lot of time focusing and taking care of things that will be around when they are not. For a lot of people, this involves children. As a way to give back, parents try to raise their children to be active, positive members that contribute to society. Stagnation refers to the inability to contribute or to feel a part of a community or society. If someone is successful during this stage, they will feel as though they have left their mark and contributed. If not, they will experience stagnation. They will feel disconnected and unproductive.
Integrity versus despair is the eighth and final stage of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. This stage occurs from age 65 through the end of life. During this stage, people look back on their life and either realize they lived to their fullest or they lived their life in regret. If someone looked back with a sense of accomplishment, they will feel a sense of integrity. Being successful in this stage is if you look back at your life and look at few regrets and feel like you've lived your life as well as you could have. Realizing these things will help these elders gain wisdom even until death. If you are someone who fails this stage, when you look at your life, you'll see a lot of regrets and have a feeling of bitterness and despair. They will also feel like they've wasted their life. Successfully completing this stage, you will hopefully end your life on a high and experience death peacefully and knowing you lived your life to the fullest.
It is important to note that although Erikson and Freud have similar theories of development, but they differ in many key points, it is crucial to observe that unlike Freud, Erikson believed that you could redeem stages that you had passed through unsuccessfully. Completing these stages, according to Erikson, will lead to an individual becoming a well-rounded person and a great contributor to society.